Adrian Ward had never expected a day like this. The sun of Nova Zenith was low on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, and the colony's energy shields hummed softly as if echoing the calm before a storm. He walked along the maintenance platform, checking the final diagnostic panels on the new shield extension. Everything seemed normal, almost too normal, which made Adrian uneasy. Humans had settled on Nova Zenith for decades, but in all that time, Adrian had learned that routine could often hide danger. A sudden flash on the console drew his attention. A small blip, barely noticeable, appeared near the outer airspace. Adrian frowned. "That's odd," he muttered. The colony's sensors were precise, and no ships had been scheduled for arrival today. Curious, he activated the alert signal and made his way toward the landing pad. The automated gates hissed open, revealing the familiar expanse of the docking area, polished metal gleaming faintly under the twin suns. There, hovering just above the pad, was a small spacecraft unlike any Adrian had ever seen. Its surface was smooth, almost liquid-like, reflecting the sunlight in gentle waves. As the landing gear extended, a figure emerged. She stepped down gracefully, her presence commanding attention even without moving dramatically. Adrian's breath caught for a moment. Her skin shimmered a soft pale blue, and her eyes were large and intelligent, glimmering in shades of silver and violet. Her form was slender but clearly strong, and there was an unmistakable aura of authority about her. "Greetings," she said, her voice musical but firm. "I am Lyra of the Zetharian Alliance." Adrian blinked, caught off guard. Zetharians were known across multiple systems for their strict diplomacy and their cautious approach to human colonies. Seeing one in person was rare, and this close, she was even more impressive than the hollow projections he had studied. Adrian cleared his throat, trying to regain composure. "Captain Adrian Ward. Welcome to Nova Zenith." He smiled, leaning casually against a railing, masking the surprise in his chest. "Careful," he added with a teasing tilt to his voice. "You're falling for me." Lyra paused, her eyes narrowing slightly, then a faint curve of amusement appeared on her lips. Adrian felt a flutter in his chest. Something in the way she looked at him suggested that she understood the human custom of teasing, and perhaps even found it charming. "I assure you, Captain Ward," she replied, voice calm yet tinged with warmth, "I have a mission, not a romantic interest." Yet the corner of her mouth lifted in a subtle smile. Adrian's mind raced. Even as the humor lingered, the tension was undeniable. He sensed intelligence, courage, and perhaps a hint of curiosity in her. For a moment, the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them, the distant hum of the colony's machinery fading into the background. Before he could respond, the colony's automated security system issued a low alert. A rogue energy spike had been detected in the perimeter sectors. Adrian's instincts kicked in immediately. "Stay here," he said, more serious now. "Something's happening. We'll need to check it out." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of trust and caution. She followed him without question, moving with a fluid grace that Adrian had never seen in a human. As they walked toward the perimeter, Adrian explained the layout of the colony, its energy grid, and the recent reports of minor disturbances that had seemed insignificant until now. "It's rare for anything to penetrate the outer shields without triggering alarms," Adrian said, scanning the horizon. "If this is intentional, it's someone who knows the system well." Lyra's eyes glimmered thoughtfully. "Then it may be more than a simple attack. Perhaps a test or a warning." Her voice was soft, yet firm enough to command respect. Adrian was impressed. Many other antisepted to make sense, but she spoke with clarity and insight. As they approached the source of the anomaly, the faint hum of the energy field intensified, vibrating through the metal walkways beneath their feet. A sudden flicker of movement caught Adrian's eye. An automated drone had malfunctioned, spinning erratically, sparks flying from its propulsion module. Adrian moved to stabilize it, while Lyra extended a hand, releasing a faint glow of energy that calmed the drone instantly. Adrian watched, astonished. "You're not just diplomatic," he said, voice low. That was precise, efficient. "I didn't even know Zytherians could manipulate energy like that in real time." Lyra's eyes met his, and a hint of amusement returned. "Humans are quick to judge. Some of us have other talents." She turned, her expression softening. "Perhaps your teasing earlier wasn't entirely unwelcome, Captain Ward." Adrian's heartbeat quickened. "Is that a yes?" he asked, grinning despite the tension. Lyra shook her head, though the smile on her face made it clear she was enjoying his persistence. "Too early to say," she replied, though there was a warmth in her tone that made Adrian think it might already be too late. They continued toward the outer sectors, where the energy anomaly had been traced. As they moved, Lyra shared glimpses of her world, the Zytherian culture, their strict codes, and the weight of responsibility she carried as a diplomat. Adrian responded with stories of human resilience, of colonies surviving hostile planets, and of the ingenuity that often allowed humans to overcome impossible odds. The contrast was striking. Here was an alien of immense skill, grace, and intellect. And yet, she seemed to appreciate the very human qualities Adrian took pride in: courage, ingenuity, and humor. The bond between them, though newly formed, felt electric, undeniable. Reaching the perimeter control hub, they discovered the source of the disturbance. A small faction of rogue Zytherians, disguised to look like malfunctioning drones, had infiltrated the colony. Their objective was unclear, but their presence indicated intent. Adrian and Lyra exchanged a look. This was no random event. Lyra's hand brushed against his arm as she activated her energy manipulation, disabling several of the rogue units instantly. "Your people are brave," she said softly, glancing at him. "But courage alone may not be enough this time." Adrian nodded, feeling a rush of both excitement and concern. "Then we combine it with human ingenuity," he said, smiling, "and a little bit of luck." Lyra's lips curled into a full smile now, unmistakable in its sincerity. "Perhaps," she said, "there is more to your species than I expected." The two of them worked seamlessly, blending human tactical knowledge with Zytherian energy skills. Each move, each calculation drew them closer. Humor and teasing returned in small moments. Adrian would make a witty remark during the tension, and Lyra would respond with a subtle, almost imperceptible tease of her own. The dynamic was playful, yet charged with something deeper, a connection that neither could ignore. By the time the rogue units were contained, the suns of Nova Zenith had sunk lower, casting long golden shadows across the colony. Adrian and Lyra paused on the landing pad, catching their breath. The quiet moments allowed the energy between them to surface. Unspoken, but heavy with implication. Adrian's teasing returned, softer this time, almost tender. "Careful," he said. "You're falling for me." Lyra's eyes met his directly, unwavering, and a smile spread across her face. Her reply was calm, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. Too late. Adrian's chest tightened. He knew in that instant that whatever this connection was, it had already begun. He couldn't step back, and neither could she. The day had started like any other, with routine checks and mundane tasks, but it had ended with an encounter that would change everything. Not just for him, but for the future of humans and Zytherians alike on Nova Zenith. As the colony lights glimmered on in the growing darkness, Adrian realized one simple truth. Adventure, danger, and unexpected encounters could create bonds stronger than any protocol, stronger than any species divide. And this bond, between a human captain and a Zytherian diplomat, was only beginning. The colony had settled into an uneasy calm after the rogue Zytherians were contained. Yet Adrian Ward could feel that this calm was fragile, like a thin layer of ice covering deep, unseen currents. He walked along the main corridor of Nova Zenith, the soft hum of the energy shields echoing faintly through the metal walls. Lyra followed, her steps quiet but precise, the soft glow of her presence casting gentle reflections on the polished surfaces. "What's next?" she asked, her voice steady but tinged with curiosity. Adrian glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "Next," he said, "is finding out why they were here. A small faction doesn't just show up for fun. Someone wanted to test us, or send a message." Lyra nodded. "Then we must follow the traces. They left signs, subtle, but visible to one who looks carefully." She extended her hand toward a panel, her fingers moving over it with practiced precision. A faint pulse of energy ran across the metal, and holographic markers appeared, highlighting areas of interest in the colony's outer sectors. Adrian's eyes widened. "Impressive," he said. "I didn't think anyone could manipulate the colony's energy grid like that without causing alerts." Lyra smiled faintly. "Diplomacy requires subtlety, Captain Ward. Observation is key." They began their investigation, moving through the corridors, past the bustling human districts where settlers went about their daily lives unaware of the danger that had brushed so close. Market stalls glowed with neon advertisements, children's laughter echoed faintly from recreation halls, and the scent of engineered flora from the colony gardens filled the air. It was a reminder of what was at stake: human lives, dreams, and the fragile colony's survival. As they reached the outer sectors, the first signs of the rogue faction's activity became apparent. Several drones had been tampered with, their circuits rewired to appear as minor malfunctions. Adrian crouched beside one, examining the modifications. "This isn't random," he said. "Someone with advanced knowledge of both human and Zytharian systems did this. They wanted to go unnoticed." Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the area. "It is clever, but not perfect. They underestimated our ability to adapt quickly, and they underestimated you." Her gaze met his, and for a moment the teasing from earlier returned, though now it carried a depth of admiration. Adrian's lips curved into a grin. "Is that your way of saying I'm good at my job?" She raised a brow. "I am saying exactly that and more." Their partnership grew as they traced the rogue faction's movements through the colony. They navigated through energy conduits, maintenance shafts, and observation towers. Each step was a mix of caution and trust. Each move required coordination. Adrian relied on his instincts and human ingenuity, improvising where plans could not predict. Lyra contributed with her alien understanding of energy manipulation and subtle strategy, predicting potential traps and dangers before they occurred. As they worked, the tension between them remained electric, though it manifested differently. In moments of danger, they moved seamlessly, almost anticipating each other's actions. In quieter moments, Adrian's humor broke the tension, and Lyra's rare smiles and soft laughter created fleeting warmth. Adrian found himself noticing the way her eyes caught the light, the faint shimmer of her skin in the colony's artificial illumination, the small gestures that revealed her character. At one point, they reached a long corridor filled with malfunctioning security drones, their movements jerky and unpredictable. Adrian paused, examining the layout. "We can't just run through. They'll hit us," he said. "We need a plan." Lyra stepped forward, her hands extending, a faint glow emanating from her fingertips. She manipulated the drones, adjusting their circuits to make them harmless. "Watch and learn," she said with a playful smile, her eyes locking onto his briefly. Adrian watched, impressed not only by her skill but also by the ease with which she handled danger. "You make it look effortless," he said. "Perhaps," she replied softly. "But humans have their advantages too. I have seen your courage today. That is not effortless." The compliment caught Adrian off guard, and for a moment words failed him. He had faced danger countless times, but there was something different about her recognition. It mattered. It wasn't just respect for his skill, it was acknowledgement of his humanity, his resourcefulness, and the choices he made in moments of risk. Their investigation led them deeper into the colony's perimeter, to a network of hidden tunnels that had been sealed decades ago. These tunnels, remnants of early human colonization, had become a secret pathway for the rogue faction. Adrian and Lyra moved carefully, their footsteps echoing softly, the air cool and slightly damp. This place hasn't been used in years, Adrian whispered. How did they even find it? Lyra's eyes scanned the walls, noting subtle markings that indicated the faction's previous movements. They have inside knowledge, or someone guided them. Either way, they are dangerous. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the tunnel. Sparks flew as a malfunctioning drone activated unexpectedly, its energy beam cutting through the air dangerously close to Adrian. Without thinking, he rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the blast. Lyra's hand shot out, and a pulse of energy redirected the drone harmlessly into the wall. "You're reckless," she said, though there was no anger in her voice, only concern. "And you're precise," Adrian replied, catching his breath, his eyes meeting hers. "Seems like we balance each other." Lyra's gaze softened for a moment, and Adrian felt a flutter in his chest. The closeness, the shared danger, and the mutual respect between them created a bond that neither could ignore. It was more than teamwork. It was trust, growing stronger with each step, each challenge, each narrow escape. As they continued, Lyra revealed more about her mission. The rogue faction is not just here to sabotage. They have a message for their leaders. A warning, perhaps, that humans are becoming more capable than they expected. They do not trust easily, and they fear our cooperation. Adrian nodded, understanding the implication. Then we need to show them what humans can do, and what we can do together. Lyra's eyes glimmered with approval. Exactly. And perhaps, Captain Ward, you can teach them the strength of human courage. The tunnel opened into a large chamber, dimly lit by emergency lights. Crates and containers, clearly alien in origin, were stacked in neat rows. Adrian and Lyra moved cautiously, noting the contents: energy cells, weapons, and devices that could disrupt the colony's shields. "This is bigger than I thought," Adrian said, scanning the room. "If they get this out, the colony is in real danger." Lyra's hands glowed as she began neutralizing the devices, rendering them harmless. "We cannot let that happen," she said firmly. "We must protect the humans here, and you, Captain, will need to stay sharp. Danger may come from any direction." As they worked together, the connection between them deepened. Small moments, a shared glance, a brush of the hand, a smile after a tense escape, built intimacy and trust. Adrian's teasing returned, gentler now. "Careful," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "You're falling for me." Lyra's reply was soft, almost a whisper, yet filled with certainty. Too late. The words lingered in the air, heavier than any threat, more binding than any duty. Adrian felt a surge of emotion, something he had not expected amid the danger and chaos. But it was undeniable. He realized that the bond they were forming was as important as the mission itself, as vital as the safety of the colony. The rogue faction's movements began again, faster and more coordinated than before. Adrian and Lyra prepared for the next phase, ready to confront the threat together. Their partnership was no longer just tactical. It was personal, a melding of human courage and alien skill. Trust and admiration growing stronger with every challenge. As they advanced toward the faction's next target, the twin suns of Nova Zenith set behind them, casting long shadows in the corridor. The colony slept unaware, safe for now, but the future held more danger, more tests, and more moments that would shape the bond between human and Cytherian. And amid all of it, Adrian knew one thing for certain. He could not ignore Lyra's presence, nor the pull she had on his heart. Their teasing, their trust, their shared courage, It all led to one undeniable truth. The mission was important. The danger was real. But the connection between them was becoming the most significant force of all. As they moved into position for the next confrontation, Adrian whispered once more, not out of teasing, but with a quiet acknowledgement of what was growing between them. Careful. Lyra's soft gaze met his, steady and unwavering. Too late. And with that, they stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next, together. The rogue Zetherian faction was no longer a distant threat. They were here, and they were clever. Adrian Ward and Lyra moved through the colony's outer defense grid with careful precision, their senses sharp, aware of every flicker of light and every faint hum in the energy fields. The corridors that had once been quiet were now tense with the knowledge that danger lurked in every shadow, and yet, together, they felt capable. "Do you feel it?" Lyra asked, her voice low but firm. Her hands hovered near the small devices strapped to her belt, each one capable of precise energy manipulation. Adrian nodded, his eyes scanning the perimeter. Yes, they're coordinated this time. They know our methods. They've learned from the last encounter. Lyra's eyes flickered, calculating. Then we must stay unpredictable. Use what we know, but move in ways they cannot anticipate. They approached a junction where multiple corridors converged. Adrian gestured toward a narrow maintenance shaft. "We take that path. It's risky, but it will allow us to flank them and cut off their escape routes." Lyra raised a brow. "Risky, indeed. But your instincts are sound." She glanced at him briefly, and Adrian caught a glimpse of something more. Trust, reliance, a connection forged under pressure. As they entered the shaft, the hum of the energy shield above became a constant presence. It reminded Adrian of the stakes. The humans in the colony, their families, their lives, all depended on their success. Every move had to be precise. Every decision mattered. The shaft opened into a larger chamber, dimly lit by emergency lights. The rogue faction had set up temporary control nodes, wires, and energy devices connecting them to the colony's main grid. Adrian and Lyra crouched behind a bulkhead, observing. "They're trying to override the shield controls," Adrian whispered. "If they succeed, the colony will be exposed in seconds." Lyra nodded, her hands glowing faintly as she prepared to neutralize the devices. "We cannot allow that. Not tonight." They moved swiftly, using shadows and cover to approach the devices. Adrian's quick thinking allowed him to disable traps and mislead the rogue faction's sensors, while Lyra's precise energy pulses rendered the nodes harmless. Together, human ingenuity and alien skill combined seamlessly. One of the rogue Zetherians emerged from a side corridor, weapon raised. Adrian reacted instinctively, grabbing a nearby energy conduit and swinging it to knock the weapon aside. Lyra moved with him, her energy pulse striking the assailant and immobilizing him without harm. The synchronization between them was effortless, almost instinctual. Adrian exhaled sharply. "We make a good team," he said, a grin spreading across his face despite the tension. Lyra's lips curled into a small smile. "That is undeniable." Her eyes softened briefly, a glimpse of the bond that had grown between them over the past hours. They continued through the chamber, disabling more devices and carefully avoiding detection. Every step brought new challenges. More rogue faction members, automated defenses, and unstable energy nodes. Each time they relied on each other, combining strategy, strength, and skill to move forward. At one point, a sudden surge in the energy grid caused a section of the floor to spark violently. Adrian leapt to the side, narrowly avoiding a fatal arc. Lyra reached out, her energy pulse creating a protective shield around him. Their hands brushed briefly, and Adrian felt a jolt that had nothing to do with electricity. "You always manage to save me," he said, half teasing, half serious, his eyes locking onto hers. Lyra's gaze held his. "And you always make it easy to trust you, Captain Ward." Her words were simple, but the meaning behind them was profound. The rogue faction had anticipated resistance and had begun retreating toward the main control hub. Adrian and Lyra pursued cautiously, knowing that any misstep could be disastrous. The corridors narrowed, the hum of energy systems louder, and the tension tighter. Suddenly, the faction split, some moving toward the central chamber, others retreating toward escape routes. Adrian made a snap decision. "We cut them off here. We divide and neutralize." Lyra nodded, and together they executed the plan. Adrian blocked one corridor, using his agility and human strength to force the rogues back, while Lyra moved to intercept the others with precise energy pulses. Their coordination was flawless, each anticipating the other's movements with an unspoken understanding. During the confrontation, Adrian noticed a particularly aggressive rogue attempting to sabotage the shield nodes directly. He raced toward him, but the rogue was faster than expected. Lyra saw the threat and acted instantly, extending her hands and sending a controlled pulse that disabled the rogue just as he reached the node. Adrian arrived moments later, breathing heavily. "Too close," he muttered, shaking his head. Lyra's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "We have each other," she said simply. It was more than reassurance. It was a promise. As they moved toward the main control hub, Adrian couldn't help but notice the changes in Lyra's demeanor. She was still calm, still precise, but there was an openness, a warmth that had not been there when they first met. Her trust in him, and perhaps something more, was evident in every glance, every movement. They reached the hub and found the remaining rogue faction members attempting to interface with the colony's central systems. Adrian and Lyra moved as one, neutralizing threats with efficiency and minimal risk. Every pulse of energy, every calculated maneuver showcased the combined potential of human courage and alien precision. Once the last rogue was contained, the chamber fell silent, except for the hum of the energy shields. Adrian and Lyra stood side by side, catching their breath, their eyes meeting. The tension that had driven them closer in battle now gave way to a moment of quiet intimacy. "You were remarkable," Adrian said, his voice low, carrying both admiration and something deeper. Lyra smiled faintly, a softness in her eyes. "And you were courageous. Perhaps more than I expected." Their hands brushed as they began to move toward the exit, and neither pulled away. The connection between them, forged in danger and trust, was undeniable. Adrian glanced at her, teasing again, but with a sincerity that was impossible to miss. "Careful," he said softly. "You're falling for me." Lyra's reply was steady, her voice carrying warmth and certainty. "Too late." The words lingered, more powerful than any energy pulse or strategic move. Adrian felt the weight of them, the unspoken promise of what could grow between them. He knew that the mission, the danger, the rogue faction, it was all part of the journey that had brought them together. As they left the control hub, moving back into the main corridors of the colony, the twin suns of Nova Zenith had set completely, leaving the settlement bathed in the soft glow of artificial lights. The colony was safe, at least for now, but Adrian knew the true test was just beginning, not of their skills, but of their bond, their ability to trust and rely on one another in the moments yet to come. Even in the quiet aftermath, the thrill of adventure lingered. The rogue faction's threat had been neutralized, but the connection between human and Zetharian had grown stronger, deeper, and more personal. Adrian realized that the story was no longer just about survival or duty. It was about partnership, trust, and something far more compelling, the chance for connection across worlds. He looked at Lyra, the blue glow of her skin reflecting softly in the corridor lights. "I suppose," he said, a faint grin tugging at his lips, "we make quite a team." Lyra's eyes sparkled with amusement and acknowledgement. "Indeed, Captain Ward, perhaps more than a team." Adrian's heartbeat quickened, and for the first time, he allowed himself to consider the possibilities beyond duty, beyond the mission, beyond the danger. The rogue faction had been the catalyst. The trials of the day had forged trust, and now in the quiet between threats, something more personal had begun to grow, a bond that neither could ignore, and that neither wished to. The night settled over Nova Zenith, the colony safe, the energy shields humming steadily, and the two of them standing together, ready for whatever challenges the universe would bring next. And in that shared moment of victory, relief, and mutual respect, Adrian felt something he had never felt before. Hope. Hope that humans and Zytharians could work together. Hope that courage and trust could overcome any danger. And hope that perhaps, just perhaps, hearts could connect even across the vast distances of space. The colony was quiet, but the air still held tension, like the calm after a storm. Adrian, Ward, and Lyra moved through the corridors of Nova Zenith with careful steps, their senses alert. The rogue Zytharian faction had been neutralized for now, but Adrian knew that peace in the colony was fragile. There were always threats in the vast expanse of space, and every victory was temporary. Lyra walked beside him, her gaze steady. The events of the past days had formed a connection between them that neither could ignore. The teasing, the trust, the shared dangers, they had all led to this unspoken bond. Adrian caught himself watching her. The soft glow of her skin in the artificial lights, the intelligence in her eyes, and the calm confidence she carried even in the face of danger. They reached the central hub of the colony, where the Council of Human Leaders and Zytharian diplomats had convened after the attacks. The room was filled with a low hum of machinery and the murmurs of officials discussing the incident. Adrian and Lyra moved forward together, their presence commanding attention without effort. "This faction was clever," one human official said, pointing to a holographic display of the colony's outer sectors. "They managed to bypass multiple security nodes. If not for Captain Ward and Lyra's intervention, we could have suffered serious damage." Adrian felt a subtle pride, but his focus was on Lyra. She nodded slightly, acknowledging the praise without seeking it. Her composure was impressive, yet there was warmth in her expression that Adrian hadn't seen before. After the council meeting, Adrian and Lyra stepped outside onto a balcony overlooking the colony. The twin moons of Nova Zenith glimmered softly in the night sky, and the hum of the energy shields was a steady reminder of the colony's safety.
"You did well," Adrian said, turning to her.
"Not just with the mission, but with everything. You kept calm, precise, and effective." He hesitated, realizing that what he felt went beyond admiration. Lyra's eyes met his, understanding without words. "And you, Captain, were brave beyond expectation. Your quick thinking and courage made all the difference." "I trust you completely." The word hung in the air. Trust. In the vastness of space, trust was rare and precious. And in that moment, it felt like something more. Adrian stepped closer, feeling the pull between them, a magnetic connection forged through danger, laughter, and shared victories. "Lyra," he said softly, "I don't just admire you, He paused, searching for words that could capture everything he felt. She placed a hand lightly on his arm. "I know," she whispered. "I feel it too. Perhaps it has always been there, waiting for the right moment." The night was still, the colony below them glowing with life. Adrian and Lyra stood together, the weight of their shared experiences forming a bridge between them. It was no longer just about duty or survival. It was about connection, understanding, and something deeper that neither had anticipated. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in the main courtyard. Adrian and Lyra turned to see a group of citizens gathered around a malfunctioning transport drone. Sparks flew as the drone wavered, threatening to fall. Without hesitation, Adrian sprinted toward it, Lyra following closely. He reached the drone just in time to grab a stabilizing handle, pulling it away from the edge of the landing platform. Lyra extended her hands, sending a controlled energy pulse that secured the drone safely. The crowd cheered, but Adrian's attention was on Lyra, who had moved with him seamlessly, precise and calm. "You never cease to impress," he said, breathless from the run. "And you never cease to take risks," she replied, a faint smile playing on her lips. "But that is why we work well together." "We complement each other." They returned to the balcony, the city lights reflecting in their eyes. Adrian reached out, gently taking her hand. The touch was soft, deliberate, and full of unspoken emotion. "Careful," he said with a faint grin. The familiar teasing returning. "You're falling for me." Lyra's eyes sparkled, and she smiled fully this time, the warmth and sincerity undeniable. "Too late," she replied. The words carried weight, a culmination of everything that had passed, the dangers, the shared victories, the laughter, and the quiet moments of trust. Adrian felt his heart surge. It wasn't just about surviving the rogue faction anymore. It was about the bond they had forged, the human courage and Zetherian's skill that had brought them together, and the promise of what might come. In the following days, the colony began to recover. Repairs were made to the shield systems, the rogue faction's plans fully understood, and Nova Zenith returned to a cautious peace. Adrian and Lyra continued to work together, their partnership now more than professional. It was personal. They trained together, shared meals in the mess halls, and discussed strategies for the colony's long-term safety. Every interaction strengthened their bond. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Lyra led Adrian to a quiet observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, a reminder of the vast universe beyond Nova Zenith. She turned to him, her expression soft, vulnerable in a way she rarely showed. "You have changed my perspective on humans," she said. "I came here expecting to maintain distance, to complete a mission and leave. But you, your people, your courage and ingenuity, it has made me reconsider many things." Adrian felt a warmth in his chest, pride mingled with emotion. "And you have changed mine," he replied. "I thought I knew what humans were capable of, but seeing your skill, your insight, and the way you trust, it makes me want to be better, not just for the colony, but for you." The danger had passed, but the connection remained stronger than ever. It was more than admiration, it was partnership, trust, and the beginning of something neither had anticipated, yet both embraced fully. The colony below thrived under the protection of human courage and Zetherian precision. Citizens walked safely among the streets, unaware of how close danger had come or the bond that had been forged to protect them. Adrian and Lyra, side by side, were ready for any future challenge. They had faced threats, relied on each other, and discovered trust, respect, and an undeniable connection. As the stars shimmered above, Adrian whispered again, softly, as if confirming a truth he had known for days. "Careful." Lyra's gaze met his, steady and unwavering, her smile radiant. Too late. And with that, the human and the Zetherian stood together, watching the moons rise, the city safe, and the future open, with possibility. In a universe filled with danger, distance, and uncertainty, they had found courage, connection, and a bond that transcended species, a bond built on trust, bravery, and the quiet promise that hearts can connect even across worlds. Adrian reached for her hand again, holding it firmly, not just as a gesture of affection, but as a statement of partnership. "Together," he said. Lyra nodded, her grip firm. "Always." The colony thrived, humans and Zetherians working side by side, and above all, a new story had begun. One of courage, trust, and love across the stars. And in that story, Adrian and Lyra were not just participants. They were its champions. The night stretched on, peaceful for the first time in days. The stars shone brightly, as if celebrating the triumph of human ingenuity, alien wisdom, and the bond forged between them. Adrian looked at Lyra and felt a surge of certainty. Whatever challenges awaited them in the universe, together they would face them all. The moons cast silver light over Nova Zenith, the colony safe, the rogue faction gone, and the connection between human and Scytherian stronger than ever. In that moment, Adrian realized the truth of their journey. It was never just about duty, survival, or courage. It was about trust, understanding, and the undeniable power of connection. And so, on the quiet balcony of Nova Zenith, Adrian and Lyra stood together, ready to face whatever the universe would bring. Hearts aligned, hands entwined, and a bond unbreakable by time, space, or species. The stars above seemed to wink knowingly, a silent witness to the beginning of something extraordinary.